All right, welcome guys. I'm back again. I wanted to do something over the weekend for the Combine, but I didn't get a chance to, so now another cumulative show. I've got my partner right here, Aspen, new member of the family, our little Australian Shepherd. But, to the sports aspect, sorry, we have been slacking a lot here lately. Really been trying to get stuff in, but it's just becoming a lot, midterm exams, stuff like that. So really just trying to get some stuff in. Really just kind of want to dive on in and let's get this going. A lot of stuff to get to, a lot of stuff to dive into, so let's just do it. First thing I want to talk about is baseball. Everyone knows I've talked about it on this show that the Astros are in the midst of a cheating scandal, their investigation is done. There was barely any repercussions from it. Not a lot of penalties handed down to the players, the people involved. So, Alex Rodriguez is on their preseason games going on right now, their spring training games. So Alex Rodriguez is on one of the games, and he kind of conveyed what the fans have been thinking. The thing about this whole thing is, we just want to see some contrition, some remorse for what they did. But constantly they come out here, every player of the Astros is like, well, we feel like we didn't do anything wrong. Jim Crane, their owner said, we feel like we won that. They can't take that away from us. That's something we earned. And they've given a couple of apologies, but it felt forced. None of them really wanted to apologize. And that's the thing is, when you do something like that, when you hurt a sport as sacred and as beautiful as baseball, as most fans hold it true, because it is the original pastime for this country, and it is a pastime for many countries the world over. When you hurt something like that, when you want to do something like that, that's more than the game. That's bigger than the game. That's leading into the lives of so many people. That's taking away from not just your career, but that's taking away from other careers. Pitchers and stuff like that who now, because of stuff that happened, they get minor league deals. They don't get to stay in the majors. It's not just you. It's not just you getting a championship. There's so much of a domino effect to something like that, because we can say what ifs and what ifs and what ifs. And that's the biggest thing about this is what ifs. Well, what if, you hadn't done this to this pitcher? Well, maybe he'd still be in the major leagues. Maybe he wouldn't be on a minor league contract. Maybe it wouldn't have ruined his career. So, it's just stuff like that. What would have happened to the teams? Would the Dodgers, without you cheating, would the Dodgers finally have that elusive championship that's plagued them all these years? It's just stuff like that. And when you don't show any remorse, when you don't show any conviction, that really angers. And that's the thing about the fans right now, is I think that's mainly, of course we're pissed about the cheating. We don't want that in our sport. But we're more pissed about you guys, about the Astros not showing any remorse, or anything like that. They don't seem upset. They're going to, they should go about their business. I'm not saying that. But when you're asked about it, don't constantly defend it. And that's what A-Rod said they asked him about it, and this is where I gain respect for him, and I'll talk about the whole David Ortiz thing. A-Rod becoming one of my more favorite guys over David Ortiz now during this whole situation. A-Rod just plain out and said the same thing I just said, was the fans are more pissed about these guys not showing any remorse and not showing that they're truly sorry for what they did. And that's what makes us mad the most. And, A-Rod, it takes a big man to do what A-Rod did. He said, when something like that happens, and he even talked about Manfred not laying down the law on that, he was like, When something like that happens, you just have to show remorse. You have to show that you're sorry so that the fans can get back behind you. Because the only fans that are behind them right now are Astros fans. No other fans. And I loved Jose Altuve. I loved Alex Bregman. I loved Carlos Correa. I loved George Springer. I loved those guys as a baseball fan before all of this came out, and now it's just become, I can't stand them anymore. But A-Rod brought up the fact that he served the longest suspension in Major League Baseball history. And not only did he say that, what he said after all that was, I deserved it. That's what we want to hear is, he didn't have to come out and say that. It's been years. We don't really care about that anymore, even though he was one of the most hated baseball players in the world, probably the most hated guy on a baseball field. We've kind of got past that. We've kind of forgotten that because of the stuff that he's done afterwards. But to be on television and years after your career, to sit up there and say, I got the suspension because I deserved it, he just won a lot of people over, including Red Sox fans, and that's hard to do when you're Alex Rodriguez because we all know the history there if you're a sports fan. I mean, that's what we want to hear from the Astros is we want to hear these guys say, yes, we messed up. Yes, we did wrong, and we're truly sorry for that. We're not up here just saying these written apologies for us. We're not up here giving you what you want to say. This is what we want to say to you. This is how we truly feel. At the press conferences they gave, no one thought that. No one cared. No one thought that they were actually sorry for what they did. You got a championship ring out of this. I understand that it's hard to be sorry for something like that, but they ruined some careers along the way, and they ruined some people's lives. And that's, that's got to be in your conscience somewhere. You can't be so cold-hearted as a baseball player to know that you did wrong, to know what you did was absolutely 100% wrong. It damaged the integrity of the game and brought so much hatred down on you. You cannot sit up there and say, well, we still deserve that championship. You can't sit there and say, well, we earned what we got. No, you did not. No, you did not. You didn't earn shit. That's ridiculous. You cheated your way to the top. Everyone knows everyone still signs. Everyone knows there is some aspect of cheating. And I hear people comparing this to the steroid scandal. This is nowhere near what happened with steroids. Steroids, everyone knew you were using it. So when the scandal first came up, everyone that done it just said, well, hey, these guys are using it. I'm just trying to make it fair. Batters started using it. Pitchers were like, well, I'm going to get on it. I want to juice myself up. I'm going to make things fair. No one knew what was going on. This was an inside thing. This was not a league-wide thing. This was an inside thing inside the Astros organization that they came up with the code breaker, and they were able to use this to gain an unfair advantage playing at home. Absolutely freaking ridiculous. And yet they still sit here and they still say, we earned this. We were the best team in baseball, and we got there on our pure talent. And that is what is sickening the most about this. Now, what puts A-Rod above David Ortiz and freaking Jessica Mendoza? As a baseball fan, Mendoza and David Ortiz have become public enemy number one along with the Astros. Jessica Mendoza called Frears a whistleblower. He was a whistleblower. David Ortiz called him a snitch and said that would never fly. Here's the thing, is these guys had, the MLB and Rob Manfred had numerous chances and a large amount of time to find something in their investigation, but they weren't working hard enough. This was underlying for probably a year and a half, for a couple of years, before Frears, I'm not sure how to say his last name, came and made a public announcement on this and made it public. That's what forced MLB's hands. I don't care what David Ortiz says. I don't care what Jessica Mendoza says. David Ortiz is absolutely in the wrong. when he can stand in front of us and say what Alex Rodriguez said years after his career's over, then I may gain some respect back for him. But what he said about Friars, saying that he is a snitch and he should not have done that, no, he absolutely should have done it, and baseball fans are grateful for Friars. Now, I understand David Ortiz's point of, well, why didn't you say that when this was happening? Why did it take you 2 years now that you're not on the team anymore to come out and say this? Well, here's the thing. Conscience, there's no statute of limitations on conscience. And maybe Friars' conscience finally caught up to him. It's not like the A's were really battling for anything when it comes to that. So it's, if he was a part of the Yankees, if he was a part of the Dodgers, and he blew the whistle on this, then I can understand some of the snitching, some of the hatred coming towards him. But that is absolutely ridiculous that David Ortiz would come out and say something like that Friars is a snitch and he should not have said what he said. No, he absolutely should have said what he said. Major League Baseball would not have done anything at all if Friars had not come and made this public. They were doing a private investigation. It wielded nothing. There was going to be no repercussions, no penalties. And yet Friars saw that and he was like, no, this is not going to fly. The world of baseball, the fans need to know what is going on behind the scenes of this so-called dynasty of the Astros. And he blew the whistle on it. And we are grateful for Friars, and we are grateful for the pitchers who continue to throw at Astros batters. In their first 5 preseason games, they had 7 hit by pitches. So if you're betting the over-under on the 83.5 HBP this year by Astros batters, I would bet the over. I would bet the over because everyone is furious. And it's going to come. Dominique Foxworth said on Get Up that he doesn't agree with that. No, this is an unwritten rule in baseball. This is how we get our justice. If justice is not going to be done at the top, we're going to do it. They're going to do it at the player level. And as a baseball player, never played in major leagues, but it's the same at every level. There's a certain amount of justice that players take for themselves, and this is going to be it this year. Moving off of that, NBA standings, it has been phenomenal year. The teams that we thought were going to make it are making it. That's not. But the biggest, no standing changes have happened. It looks like both conferences are, pretty much set, minus maybe the 8th seed. Minus maybe the 8th seed in the West. But one person I do want to talk about is Zion Williamson. He's an amazing athlete. He's been fantastic on the offensive end. He's been fantastic for the Pelicans. He's breathed new life in them. They're trying to make a playoff run. They're 5 games out of the 8th spot behind the Grizzlies. But something came to everyone's attention this past game of, they've lost 3 in a row now, and it came to the attention of everybody that his effort and his desire on the defensive end have not been there. He is a freak in the paint, offensive rebounding over everybody. He has been amazing to watch. I think he's one of the great young talents, even though I think Ja Morant, I continuously say this, and I will say this until Zion proves me wrong. I still think that Ja Morant, out of this draft, will have the best career. But if you watch him on pick and rolls, if you watch him switching and stuff like that, then he just doesn't show any effort. He doesn't close out on shooters. He just kind of lollygags up and they get wide open shots. I don't know what the underlying issue for that is. I don't know what he's feeling, but that's going to have to stop if the Pelicans are going to make a run. I still believe Milwaukee is the best team in the league, not just in the East. They have the best record, but that is not why. They have built their team perfectly around Giannis, And what James Harden said about Giannis, about, well, if I'm 7 foot and all I'm going is driving to the rim and dunking. No, Giannis is a very, very skilled basketball player. And James Harden, until you prove us wrong in the playoffs, you have no room to talk. Now we understand that there are limitations to Giannis's game, and teams pick up on that. But he is dominating at a historic rate this year, and it has been amazing to watch. That's really the only NBA talk. Nothing really has changed standing-wise. I'll keep you updated through that. This Saturday, I misspoke last week. It is this Saturday. It wasn't this past Saturday. UFC 248, Israel Adesanya, Yoel Romero, Zhang and Jedris. I can't even say her last name. That's the women's strawweight co-main event for the strawweight title. Adesanya and Romero will be battling for the middleweight title. Adesanya 18-0, Yoel Romero 13-4, but even at his age, he is still one of the most dangerous fighters in UFC. Like I said last week, as long as Adesanya controls the fight, controls the pace, I believe he comes out with a win. I believe it goes to a decision. But if Romero tries to shoot, Adesanya will knock him out. I believe that if Romero is too aggressive, it's going to be detrimental for Adesanya. Romero is going to have to shoot inside tactically and intelligently so that he can try to get Adesanya to the ground, try to use that strength against him. Because if you let Adesanya strike, if you let him keep you at a distance, that's where he's the most dangerous. But I cannot wait. Biggest fight of Adesanya's career so far, and his career is only going to skyrocket, especially if he can get through this fight. But I do not count out Romero. Even even guys who have been fighting say that they do not want. Jorge Masvidal said that he would not want to step into the ring with Yoel Romero. So that's just something, to keep an eye on. So the XFL, huge weekend this weekend. We learned that the DC Defenders, really no one in this league is an away team. Let's take you, so DC started out 2-0. They were the favorites, really, for most people to win this year's championship, the inaugural championship. They go into LA last week. Everyone's expecting them to just run roughshod. LA, they're 0-2, looking like it's going to be another loss because they got the best team in the league coming in, or second best team in my opinion and Carver's opinion. Going to LA, they lose 39-9 against the LA team who really hadn't had a lot of offensive improvement throughout their first couple of games, and it really hadn't shown us anything. Then they come up against what everyone thought was the absolute worst team in the league, in the Tampa Bay Vipers. They lose 25-0. They get shut out. Cardale Jones has an absolutely horrific game. But I'm not going to throw this on DC because I've seen, and if you look at the records throughout this league, not really anybody. So Houston and Dallas is the complete opposite of DC and New York. Dallas is 0-2 at home, 2-0 away, while DC and New York are both 2-0 at home and 0-2 away. But not only DC and New York, LA and Seattle both are 0-2 on the road. So DC, New York, Tampa Bay, LA, and Seattle, they're all 0-2 on the road. That's 5 teams out of the 8 that have not got a win on the road. Houston and Dallas are both 2-0 on the road. Then St. Louis, who is leading the XFL East, are 1-1. So those are the only 3 that have wins on the road. I don't think that it was shocking, but what really took everyone by storm this week was we saw a a new runner-up for the MVP award. Jordan Ta'amu has been playing great for St. Louis. They've built that offense perfectly around him. They're built on their run game. Ta'amu doesn't have to do a lot in the air, but he makes the right decisions. Ta'amu is showing that the RPO, he can run the RPO to perfection. That's exactly what it looked like this past week against Seattle. It looked like everything that he was doing was absolute perfection. Now, P.J. Walker for Houston, who is the MVP frontrunner, did not have that great of a game, but still got the win against Dallas, even though Landry Jones turned over 3 interceptions in the first half. Landry Jones has been extremely inconsistent. I believe that Dallas is the only one that's going to be looking for a quarterback next year. They thought Landry Jones, being in this Bob Stoops offense, being in this Hal Mumme and Bob Stoops offense, being able to air the ball out, they really thought that he was going to be something, but it just really hasn't shown. Dallas is sitting at 2-2. And they haven't won a game at home. They just lost to Houston 27-20. Dallas's defense is what's kept them in ball games. The offense is really not showing a lot. Landry Jones, like I said, I believe will be the first quarterback that doesn't have his job next year. We thought Tampa Bay was in the water, but now you've got Taylor Cornelius, who has come on and who has become the starter for them. They won this past week. Against DC, so it looks like Tampa Bay found their guy. Seattle looks like with B.J. Daniels, they were able to move the ball, so it looks like they've kind of found their guy. I thought that Brandon Silvers was going to be their guy, but watching B.J. Daniels come in and lead that offense, he just gives them a whole new outlook and a whole new rejuvenation to them. Our prayers do go out to Quentin Flowers for Tampa Bay. We don't know what exactly he's dealing with. Tressman would not give much insight on that. He just said that whenever he is, they want him back as soon as possible. They're ready to have him back, but they're going to give him his time. He left for personal reasons. Like I said, we don't know what those reasons are, but Quentin Flowers, we believe, was possibly going to be that guy for Tampa Bay. Me and Carver both criticized their use of two quarterback system, but I understand Tressman trying to get that change of pace game in there. Flowers, the more mobile guy, the more option guy, while Cornelius is going to put the ball in the air. But Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay has the best running game, 296 yards from Davion Smith and 231 from Jacquez Patrick. Those are the 1 and 3 guys in the league in rushing. So that's what they're built on, and that's what they're going to hang their hat on. But it seems like everyone really does have their QBs besides Dallas. Landry Jones, unless something else happens, he's got the weapons, but it just seems like he just can't. His decision-making is ridiculous, and that's what's kind of hurt them. But let's go through these other games. New York improved to 2-2 by beating LA 17-14. LA is now 1-3 after coming off that huge win against DC last week, which doesn't seem as impressive now as Tampa Bay beat them 25-0. Tampa Bay beat DC 25-0. They come in and they lose to a 1-2 New York Guardians team. The Guardians, their defense seems like it's what's going to lead them to victory. They're not going to hang their hat a lot on the offense. Lopez really came in and done a great job. Matt McGloin had been horrible for them. And now, this kid comes in who everyone thought was going to be the number one guy. Now he comes in and he is showing why he should have been the starting QB. And then Seattle, St. Louis handed them a 23-16 loss. Everyone kind of saw that coming. St. Louis has really become the front. To me, they've jumped up to the second best team in the league. behind Houston. DC has really fell a lot for me after the last couple of weeks. They're not a road team at all, which no teams in this league are really road teams besides Houston and Dallas. But Seattle, with that loss, they fall to 1-3. But BJ Daniels kind of rejuvenated the offense. Looked like it was a little too late, but having him in there really did look like they kind of got a new groove going. Then we got to the Battle of Texas, the Texas Showdown. Houston, Dallas. Houston comes out on top 27-20. Landry Jones has an absolutely horrific game, but their defense is able to keep them in it. PJ Walker played a horrible first half as well. It wasn't a great job by the quarterbacks. It seemed, they just had a couple big plays here and there. The defenses really kind of hung their hat. Houston wasn't able to capitalize a lot on those 3 turnovers in the first half by Dallas. But PJ Walker, I believe, is still the MVP frontrunner. I believe that he is still the best player in this league. And shout out to Andrew Luck for telling his dad about this, for getting PJ Walker this chance, and he has taken it in full stride. He's the league leader in passing yards with 987. Not quite sure on the math through 4 games what that is. A little less than 250 yards a game, but he's they really, him and Tamu, who, even though it seems like St. Louis have built themselves on their running game, Tamu's actually the second leading passer in the XFL right now, even though it's 111 yards behind what PJ Walker has. He's still the second leading passer, so really balanced. The run game really sets everything up for them, but it seems like it is a lot more balanced than what people think. A lot of the defensive guys, Houston has the top 2 guys in interceptions, which is absolutely amazing. They've got the best wide receiver in this league, Cam Phillips, by far. Donald Parham, who, if you remember, when we done the XFL preview, we looked at the scouting report for Donald Parham. He's 6'8", 270 something pounds as a tight end. So we were trying to figure out, well, why weren't NFL teams after this guy? Why didn't they really pursue him because of his size and his athleticism? And they said that he, in double coverage and in bump coverage and stuff like that, even with his size, he looked kind of lazy. And you see that at times in Dallas in this offense. You see him not really trying hard. It seems like he doesn't really want to fight for the football. But when he does get on a run, he's very hard to bring down because of his size. So, I think a more consistency out of Parham, more effort shown, will definitely get him looked at. Cam Phillips is on his way to an NFL contract. Nelson Spruce, who I believe, even though LA is 1-3, I believed through the first 2 or 3 weeks that Nelson Spruce was the number 3 guy in terms of MVP race. Right now, it's really hard. Right now, definitely got to be Houston. If you're betting on anybody, it's got to be Houston and St. Louis in the final one. I'm going to say Houston's got this one. They've got the most touchdowns in the league. Their defense isn't great, but it's not bad either. And if we look at this upcoming week, Houston has Seattle. Seattle's 1-3. BJ Daniels does breathe a little more life in that offense, like I said, but it's just hard to Houston being at home. These fans, St. Louis and Houston right now probably have, football's back in St. Louis. These fans are really rallying around them. If you watch the Battlehawks play at home, it is deafening. This is not the type of atmosphere you would think you would see in a league like this. That's very small, that isn't huge right now, but seems like they're on the upward trajectory. No game has had less than 1 million views so far, and that is amazing for a league like this. But St. Louis really seems like they do have the home field advantage because football is back in St. Louis. These other that's the thing about these other cities is all these other cities have football teams already in them. St. Louis misses their football teams, and now that they have this back, these fans are completely rallying around them. It is deafening in that stadium when you're watching it on TV. Just hearing the roar of the crowd is amazing. So it's definitely got to be a bet between St. Louis and Houston to come out of this. Houston has Seattle. Don't know the line on it, but it looks like it's going to be a run-through week for Houston. At the start of this season, after the first couple weeks, I would have said that Dallas versus New York would be, Dallas would run away with it. But after watching Landry Jones and after seeing, how good this New York Guardians defense is, I can't. Now, New York is going on the road, but here's something to think about. New York hasn't won a game on the road. Dallas hasn't won a game at home. They're both 0-2 in those perspectives. So one of them is going to get their first win either way. I'm honestly taking New York over Dallas now that they've got their quarterback in. Now that New York has their quarterback in there, and this defense seems like they really are the driving force of this team. I've got to take New York over Dallas. I just can't put any faith in Landry Jones right now to really lead this team out of this stuff. Then a huge game, the top of the XFL East, St. Louis and DC. DC is at home. This is where they thrive. They're 2-0 at home. St. Louis is 1-1 away. I know it's a small size, but when you're looking at DC at home and DC away, it is completely different. Looking at DC at home, 31-19 against Seattle, 27-0 against New York. And then they lose by 30, then they lose by 25 away. So this is something this is going to be a major problem for DC. Luckily, they're back at home. They're on a 2-game losing streak. This is the best way for them to come back from this, to get back on a roll, but they're having to play the second highest team in this league, and they're having to go up against the guy who is second behind P.J. Walker when it comes to MVP race, in Jordan Ta'amu. He's the second leading passer in this league. The RPO game for DC's defense is going to be detrimental that they neutralize this run game. They have to force Ta'amu to win it with his arm. Honestly, with the way St. Louis is rolling right now, DC coming off 0-2, even though they're going to be back home, I'm putting all my faith in St. Louis right now. I'm picking them to get the win on the road, to go to 4-1, boost their lead. DC is going to fall to number 3 in the XFL East. This is going to be a whole different league at the end of what everyone thought it was going to start. And then a battle of the 1-3 teams, Tampa Bay and LA. In LA, Tampa Bay has not won a game on the road. They're another one of those that hasn't won a game on the road. But I believe that Taylor Cornelius has been what they needed for this team. They just won 25-0 with Cornelius. They had only lost by 7 to Houston the week before. They only lost by 8 to Seattle. Then they lost by 20 to New York at the start of the game, but that was when New York Guardians defense was on point. That's when Matt McClung was the quarterback. So I'm not counting this Tampa Bay team out. I believe that they have that confidence now with this new quarterback. Josh Johnson has finally found his way with LA. I believe that it is going to come down to a QB battle between Cornelius and Josh Johnson, who can get that last big play. This is a toss-up to me. This is 50-50. I could go either way. But if I'm going to place a bet, I'm going to put it in this rejuvenated Tampa Bay team. I think that they've been right there, minus week 1, 7-8, then they win by 25 last week. So, they've been there. They're right there on the edge of being a team that could bust this up and could make a run. Still got 6 games left in the season, still 6 weeks. So, it's, everything's still up for grabs. especially with being this small of a league. So I'm taking Tampa Bay. I think that's going to push them, and then next week they'll go into a game against St. Louis. So that's going to be huge. If they can get a win this week, go into St. Louis with some confidence on a 2-game win streak, I believe that's going to be huge for them. That's really all I have on the XFL, this week coming up. I want to talk about, this is going to be one of my shorter videos. I'm sorry for that. It's kind of, being by yourself, it's kind of hard to get long videos in, especially when there's not a lot going on in the sports world. But I want to talk about Jordan Love out of Utah State. I am with Todd McShay on this. I believe that he is going to come out ahead of Justin Herbert in the draft. I believe that, and if I'm my Cowboys, I want a guy like Jordan Love. His 40 time wasn't that fast, but his decision making, they can talk about decision making all they want. But when they, his interceptions, he had 3 Hail Marys. 2 of them went, it was 17, and 2 of them went through, hit the receivers in the chest. It was just a lot of stuff. If you took away some of the stuff like that, I think he ended up with only 8 to 27 touchdowns. He led the league in turnover. He led the NCAA in turnovers last year. Dan Orlovsky mentioned this, and I don't know if there's ever been a guy who is looking to be drafted this high that led the league in turnover, that led the NCAA in turnovers the year before. If you go back, if you remember, that was my criticism of his name slipped my mind. USC New York Jets quarterback. Goodness. Oh, man. How did I just... Wow, Sam Darnold. Golly, I am ridiculous. That was my criticism of Sam Darnold, was he led the NCAA in turnovers, and he was projected as to be the number 1 pick in the draft. So why are we dogging Jordan Love, who played at a worse school in Utah State, who the year before, I believe, had 25 to 6 or something like that when it comes to touchdown and interceptions? So I don't understand what the problem is that they're talking about Jordan Love is going to be, that he's not worthy of getting this much hype. NFL scouts, from what we have heard at the Combine and from what we heard on talk shows since, NFL scouts love Jordan Love. They think he's a very intelligent kid, and they think that he has the intangibles to be the guy. Not right away. I believe that you can't bring him in and throw him in right away. He needs a couple years to develop. But Herbert, when you look at him, he seems lackadaisical. Now, that's not going towards his work effort. That's not, his work ethic, stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that when he's on the field, it seems like he doesn't really want to hype you up. He's just not in your face. He's not the kind of guy that's going to go, as a QB, as a starting QB, that's going to go to these veterans when he feels like they're not pulling their weight. Even as a rookie, as the QB, that's, you need to be able to do that. And I think a lot of people are seeing that in Jordan Love so far. I mean, it's ridiculous to say that because he led the nation. Sam Darnold, his first game, he threw a pick 6, I believe. And me and my dad were watching the game, and I looked at my dad and I was like, this is why I don't understand why he went this high. And then he ended up winning the game. He ended up having a fantastic game the rest of the year. And that was his first pass, was an interception after leading the NCAA in picks the year before. So why are we talking like this about Jordan Love? Why is it that a kid like this, is it because that he wasn't highly touted, that no one really knew him before this year? Or is it that he's from Utah State, it's not USC? It's mind-boggling that people are going to talk about this like him, but praised Sam Darnold when he came out of USC and was the projected number 1 pick. That's something that I just don't understand why. I mean, I want to know a better reason than, well, he led the NCAA in interceptions, because you tried to sell me on Sam Darnold, even though he done the same thing. So why can't you sell me on Jordan Love? What is it about him? There's got to be something else, especially from a smart guy like Dan Orlovsky. There has to be something else. Tua, we don't fully know his medical condition right now. His ankle injury, he's going to continue to get evaluations. We'll know more before the draft. But there's word right now that the Redskins are looking into possibly taking Tua at the number 2 spot. I think is absolutely ridiculous. Dwayne Haskins showed great promise at the end of the year. I truly believed coming out of last year's draft that he was the number 1 QB in that draft. I truly believed that. I thought that he had the best intangibles. I thought that, no, he didn't really play a lot of football, didn't have a lot to show for at Ohio State, but he played great. I believe that he was the best QB in that draft, and I believe that he showed a glimpse of that in the final 2 or 3 weeks of last year's season. So if you're Washington, I can understand that, and I understand where a lot of people are coming from. Todd McShay has talked about it. Mel Kiper's talked about it. That if you believe that Tua is here and Dwayne Haskins is here, then I can understand taking him. But if you don't believe that it's that big a difference because of the injuries, and we'll know more, like I said, closer to the draft about this medical report, if you don't believe that it's that far, then you don't take him. When you look at a guy like Nick Bosa, DeMarcus Lawrence, people like that, those guys change football games because of the way they're able to pass rush. I believe that the 4 most important positions on a football team are the center, the left tackle, the QB, and the defensive end, a pass rusher. It doesn't have to be a defensive end, but a pass rusher. When you have a guy like Chase Young, who is sitting there, and yes, I've had my criticisms about him, but as I thought more, as I watched more tape, a guy like Chase Young can change the game for you. I don't believe he's the best player in the draft. I actually believe that Isaiah Simmons is probably a better player than him. But Chase Young is extremely talented, and that is another guy that the Redskins have truly been looking at. So if you're looking at that, Dwayne Haskins he didn't have a lot of receivers. The offensive line play wasn't that great. The run game wasn't that great for Washington last year. So build around this young QB and bring in a guy like Chase Young who could be a game changer right away, who can transform your defense, who can help you win those close ball games because of the ability to get to the QB, to rattle QBs. Because you don't know what's going to happen in your division this year. You're going to have Daniel Jones in New York. Carson Wentz, possibly healthy, possibly not, in Philadelphia, and we don't know what Dallas is going to be. So if you're Washington, you play each of those guys, that's 6 games right there. That if you can get a guy like Chase Young to rattle a not 100% Carson Wentz, a Daniel Jones who is subpar, and if Dak is there, then it's a little bit harder. But Cooper Rush, or say we get a guy like Jordan Love who is a rookie and gets thrown in there right away, you get a guy like Chase Young who can put pressure on that can really set the tone for a football game. But the downside, so the thing that everyone talked about Chase Young was the big risk factor, or the stuff that was kind of pushing teams away, was he doesn't show up in big games. He plays amazing against the weaker teams, but doesn't show up in big games. I believe if you watch tape, and if you look at him in those big games, yes, he dominates against the lower competition, but against that higher competition, against those coaches who understand the game of football, who understand how to neutralize guys like that. He is getting doubled and triple teamed a lot. They're keeping the back on that side of the line. They're doubling up with double tight ends. It's hard to say, well, he doesn't show up in big games when he has multiple guys on him the entire time. I don't care who you are. It is hard to beat 2 or 3 guys if you're one guy, especially something like that. Now, understand that you can look at guys like J.J. Watt. You can look at guys like Reggie White. You can look at guys like John Randall. Those guys are anomalies. Those guys are the best at their position. Derek Thomas, guys like that. Those guys are anomalies. And they work to be what they were. Chase Young can get there. If you can teach him how to identify double and triple teams right off the bat and how to beat them, if you can move him across the line, not having him the same technique, not using the same stunts, getting him to the inside, getting the outside, forcing guys to choose who they want to block, and if they need to help on Chase Young to open up other stuff, to open up those second-level blitzes. I mean, I can't knock him. I do believe that Isaiah Simmons, because of what we've seen in those big games, I believe Isaiah Simmons is a better player. But I'm not going to knock Chase Young for not showing up in big games when you've got these better coaches. He still led the NCAA in sacks last year. So if you're going to say, well, he doesn't show up in big games, well, oh well. He was still a game changer, and he's going to be a game changer in the NFL. I believe that he is a sure thing. And I do not say that about many people. I do believe that he is a sure thing. Just like I believe Isaiah Simmons is a sure thing. Just like I believe everyone is wrong about Jordan Love, because I said the same stuff about Sam Darnold, and he has impressed me without having many weapons. So I'm not knocking Jordan Love. I'm not going to knock Chase Young. I think that Jordan Love is going to be a fantastic QB in the NFL. I believe that Chase Young is a sure thing. He's going to be a game changer. Isaiah Simmons is going to be a game changer. Joe Burrow is going number 1. The Bengals are expecting to franchise tag AJ Green, which that was our big question with Joe Burrow. That was what me and Carver talked about, was what happens if he doesn't have any weapons. Well, now you have the weapons. Green is there. Mixon is there. I think it's Giovanni Bernard who is Mixon's backup. So you have the weapons now. The offensive line is just going to need work, and I believe that they need to look at that in the draft. I believe that their defense is good enough to hold. So they need to look at offensive line play in the draft, and they need to try to beef that up for Joe Burrow so that he doesn't get killed, so that he's not a dead on arrival in Cincinnati. Excuse me. I do not believe Cincinnati is going to pass up this to get a generational quarterback like this. Joe Burrow, to me, is hands down the best quarterback in the draft. He is the most pro-ready. Now, to NFL talk. Not combine, actual NFL talk. We are coming up 2 weeks until free agency officially begins. Tom Brady has, the word right now is there are 8 teams that are seriously considering Tom Brady. I know that people are going to knock it, but San Francisco seems to be a highly likely place. He can replace Garoppolo down there. Garoppolo possibly goes back to Tampa or New England. So I mean, it's going to be, this is the watch that we're on, because I believe that Tom Brady is going to have to be the first domino that falls of the uncertain ones before we see other stuff starting to happen. Before Jameis Winston chooses where he's going to go, before Chicago figures out what they're going to do, before Matt Rule figures out what he's going to do in Carolina, I believe that he has to see what's going to happen with this Tom Brady fiasco. On Chicago, though, I do want to talk about Trubisky, and I have friends that live in Chicago that are Bears fans, and they're going to hate me for this, but I do not think that Chicago needs to move on from Trubisky. The word is right now they're looking into a veteran like an Andy Dalton, something like that, to bring into Chicago to push him to be his best. I don't think that last year was necessarily Trubisky's fault. I believe that his decision-making does need a little time, but I don't think that was completely his fault. Matt Nagy completely ruined what he had with Trubisky. Josh Allen is the perfect example of how Trubisky needs to be played. It is not put on his arm, it is put on his athletic ability and his legs. Trubisky is a fantastic runner. He wants to get out of the pocket. He wants to get, he wants to move the chains with his legs. Why don't you? If you're Matt Nagy, you look at Buffalo and how they've dealt with Josh Allen, who is not great arm-wise, but he does other things that make up for it. Trubisky can do other things that make up for it. If you remember, not this past year, but the year before, they were a kick away from moving and advancing in the playoffs. That's, Trubisky, and that was Trubisky. I believe that it is unfair to Trubisky because of this, because Chicago moved up into the second pick to take him. I believe that is where this all started. I don't believe in giving up on young QBs like this, and I don't believe that he's a bad QB. I do not believe that at all. I believe that this offensive system that he played in this past year was not built for him. And he needs someone who can help him mature, like with the TVs in the locker room and stuff like that. That was immature of him. So bringing in a veteran, not going after a guy like Cam Newton, but bringing in a guy like Andy Dalton who can start if he needs to, but is really just there. You need a guy who's willing to take the role of mentoring and getting Trubisky ready for that next level. That's what you need a guy. Cam Newton's not going to do that. Cam Newton, if you want him, he's going to come in and play. Andy Dalton, I believe, can be a guy who can fill that role. Is Andy Dalton the greatest QB? No. But can he mentor after having so much criticism in Cincinnati? Can he mentor a guy like Trubisky? Absolutely. He can do that with the best of them. So I believe that that's going to be something that is going to be that we're going to have to look out for. Does Nagy look at the Buffalo Bills blueprint with Josh Allen and use that with Mitch Trubisky this year? Dak Prescott, we still have no idea. Apparently he was offered a new contract. The details have not been shared. He said no, or he is pending, or it's pending. So we're waiting to see on that. Dallas, I'm all for Herbert or Love. I said this at the beginning of the year before Dak had this amazing season. I said at the beginning of the year, I talked to Carver about it, I want Justin Herbert in Dallas. Now Jordan Love has come on and kind of caught my attention because I believe that, Herbert and him, they can both use their legs. So a guy like Herbert, a guy like Love can come in and be that same Dak Prescott type that was there that first year. Is he going to put up the numbers right away? Possibly, depending on if Cooper's there or not. That's going to be the big domino, is if Cooper's going to be there. That's going to be the big thing about if these young guys are going to succeed, if they have to come in because Dak leaves to go somewhere else. That's going to be the huge thing. Is right now they have 2 franchise tags, but you can't depend on that with the new CBA pending. So I believe, honestly, I think that either way you go, you could get somebody in the draft. This is a very wide receiver heavy draft. You could go get a wide receiver. Or you could get a QB. So I believe that Dallas they don't have leverage with either guy, but Amari has said that he wants to stay in Dallas. So I believe that if you're going to give money, yes, Dak deserves it because he is a QB because of what he done this year, but you have to look at Amari too, and I think that that's what Jerry Jones is trying to figure out, is how to do this. But I don't think it is a complete detriment to the team to let one of these guys walk because of how good this draft looks like it's going to be at the wide receiver position, at the QB position. So I think that if we're as Dallas fans, let's calm down. Let's not be cutting heads off just yet. Let's not get the pitchforks ready. Let's not go lynch. Let's see how this Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper stuff goes. Let's see how this draft goes and see what Jerry Jones wants to do. And then we'll get it figured out from there. That's all I really have. Thank you guys for continuing to support this channel. I know that it's kind of been sporadic. I really do want to start getting more content out there. It's been kind of hard. I'm trying to get some stuff figured out. I just hope you guys continue to tune in, continue to get our brand out there, to continue to get our page out there. We're going to continue. This is what we love. we're not here for monetary value. We're not here to make this a big thing. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We're just here to talk sports, shoot the shit, do what we love. And thank you guys for supporting that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for more info or for alerts on our page when we drop videos. And I will see you guys when I see you.